Good morning. Just here for a quick little video, I thought. In the event that I don't get to my video tonight, which I still am hoping to do, and it will probably be quite an extensive one, because I actually sat in a nice comfy chair yesterday and I read for about an hour, just chapter after chapter in the Bible, and it was amazing because the water was just flowing so clearly for me. And I've come to the realization that I have been called by God to the truth. Many are called, few are chosen. And to be considered one of these holy ones means you're set apart. And I get how set apart I am. Most don't want to be around me because all I do really want to discuss is the truth. Because I do think it is that important, and I think that is the reason why I was called. Most people just want you to shut up and go along. Hey, just shut up. If it makes them happy to call God a he, go right along with it. Well, that's not what I was designed for. I was designed to protect him from lies. And if you're bowing and you're going along with the idol of a man as God, then you are not being very helpful to him. You are leading him straight to his death. That's what you're doing. And that's what the Bible and its truth keeps telling you daughters to do, to stand up for the truth. That's why many are called and few are chosen. And she says when she appears, when the great true living God appears, it'll be to the great shame of most. But to the few that got the truth, it'll be to their great glory, she says. And that's the great promise that us holy ones who are set apart, and so far I'm really struggling to find anybody that ain't bowing to the idol, although I'm sure they're out there, that have the few that I see on my channel that are waiting, like me, to get into the Word and to continue to discover the deeper truths that the God above really has called us out to and to teach to others. So this is the comment. I'll just read it pretty quick. It's pretty straightforward if you haven't been watching the videos. So I mentioned the House of Dragons. We'll bypass this. Which again tonight we'll discuss what they call the dragon well in the Bible and what I learned about really the full meaning there. So anyway, I say about this show, I'm starting to see a connection to the wormwood event here, as wormwood means a poisonous law or a very troublesome law at the very least. Well, we have been living in that system this entire time, which most don't see because they can't be bothered to study the truth. All they can be bothered to do is bow at the feet of an idol and wash in the mark of the beast system, which is blood. It's a violent system. You go, oh, well, we're allowed to eat meat because God says we're allowed to eat meat. Well, God says my ways and your ways are so far removed. And I kind of get that to some degree. I'll finish reading this right quick in a minute. But I get that because the more and more I learn, the greater gap there comes between me and those who refuses to get up from the feet of an idol and pursue the truth for themselves. And I get this gap between me and them because you can tell them all the things that you now know as the truth and that you've studied and you can see and understand it through wisdom, and they can't see nothing because their eyes are still closed and their ears are still closed. That's why many are called, few are chosen. But you see this gap between just us humans, the called out ones, and the ones who are not called out, but hopefully would listen and find that truth for themselves. So if that distance, I feel that distance, knowing the things that I know, because the Holy Spirit chose to teach it to me, but at the same turn, because I chose to learn it, because I wanted to know it, because the truth mattered enough to me. So it creates this gap between just me and somebody who's never studied, never bothered to study the Old Testament, who believes that an idol and washing in blood and a violent system that puts meat on your plate, you think killing an animal isn't violent to God? You think draining it of all its blood isn't violent to God? Why do you think God brings the quail down? They wanted meat in their basket and then turns poison in their mouth because they were taught this in Egypt, right? That's where they learned these ridiculous notions from, which is also where most of the Jewish festivals comes from. But we'll maybe touch on that tonight again. So if you think this difference between me and what I'm saying to you that you can't possibly be bothered to even try to comprehend, how much greater is it between you, who refuse to try to reach this point, and a true holy God? You're never going to meet God because you don't want to know the truth. You're willing to bow at the feet of an idol and worship the idea that you wash in his blood in this violent beast system because you can't be bothered with God's truth. But God says, when I appear, it'll be to their glory and to your great shame, because you can't be bothered with the truth. So I get this distance, and I know it's a smaller increment between the holy ones and the people of earth as compared to the holy ones and God. But God is the one that will bridge the distance between me and her. She's the one that bridges that distance, and she does it for the sake of her holy ones who are willing to listen to her. And then the holy ones will try to bridge the distance to the rest of mankind, whom they are trying to protect from the harlots, really, who are willing to tell him whatever tickles his ears and makes him happy, though will utterly lead to his complete destruction, and he don't realize it. But these holy ones do. So, all right, enough said. Let's read the comment here. So, I started. So, you are being shown that you are about to be introduced to the dragon's law. Well, we're already there, so I kind of didn't write that exactly right, but I'll leave it anyway, the way it is. You want a king? You will have one, who has the horns of a lamb but speaks like a dragon, rising up out of the sea. You want your idol of a man as Lord, you will get what you want. So it's like, well, as long as you're continuing to bow to an idol, that's what you'll have in your life. You'll have the idol in your life. But you will not have the truth because you don't want it. Okay. So, it is the keeping of mother's laws that were to be the identifying mark of the holy ones, not the keeping of man-made law, Torah, which then is what founded the world system. It was never bowing to an idol and being washed in blood that saved. Blood stains you. It is the mark of the beast system 666, which we know links back to King Solomon, which we have discussed in so many of our videos. So it was the water, which is the words and the commandments from the holy ones, that will save us. Now that's identified in passages like Proverbs 5, if you want to go search it out for the truth yourself, and not receive it from one of the holy ones like myself, but go seek it for yourself. Or in Song of Songs 4:12-15. It comes from her. It always did. And the deeper studying you do into the truth in the Old Testament, the truth gets revealed to you that it was indeed she, daughter Israel, the Holy One, holding mother's tongue. They're also known as the presence of God on earth, that was rejected before the foundation of the world. So, the continued religious lie is what continues to keep the world spinning in iniquity. And it does. Isaiah 24:5. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, and broken the everlasting covenant. And they did. Therefore has the curse, we discovered what the curse was, that devours the earth. It links us back to the harlot in the basket in Zechariah 5. And we know that they began to offer up a harlot spirit unto the Lord, as opposed to the righteous daughters that didn't bow to a male idol as God. God gets mad, God turns away and says, I'll show him my back instead of my face. I'll remain silent. Well, we know father and son ain't remain silent. We know the one that the world rejected was mother and daughter. We understand this completely as the harlots continue to bow at the idol of a man and say they're so in love with Jesus and stand under that idol and wash in blood in a beast system to their own demise and to the demise of the one that they were to protect. So they changed the true commandments of God to the laws written by the hand of mere mortal males called the Torah, so they could establish a system founded on harlotry, the spirit that bows to man as if he is God. And the only way this world will be saved is if she turns away from her harlotry of bowing to the idol of man. That is why the holy ones are called forth. That is why many are called and few are chosen out. So why do you think they are identified as the ones trying to deliver the children and cannot? Jeremiah 30, verse 6. Ask and see, can a man bear a child? Indeed, does a man, a father, or son give life? No. But you believe that to be true, which then you're calling God a liar, because God created woman, which then forms the clay in her womb and travails to bring her forth, or him forth. That is the example of who God the life giver is, woman. But you say God's a liar. That's right. That's what you actually accuse God of, being a liar, and saying Father forms the clay with his hand. You're a liar. Then why do I see every strong man with his hands on his stomach like a woman in labor and every face turned deathly pale? See, they're bearing witness to the actual coming down of their idol. That's truly what it's a picture of, as the stone cut out without hands, which is these holy ones identified as the Holy Spirit reborn in the land, smashing the toes on the false image. So that'll probably come into play in the video that I will make. They are bearing witness to the coming down of the ridiculous idol in Daniel 2 and 3 of a man as Lord and God of all and creator of life. The king Nebuchadnezzar, if you want to study the truth of the beast system, go study Nebuchadnezzar and what God did to him. The king Nebuchadnezzar was guilty of claiming he had built everything and had denied the power of the true living God. Where do you think all of those planets out there come from? They come from our mother. They represent her seed and where life comes to. But no, it's Father that created all of the stars and the planets. No, it's her. And you see, Nebuchadnezzar was guilty of claiming that he had built everything and had denied the power of the true creator of life, the living God. So the great Greek philosophers, this is my personal take, you don't have to agree. The great Greek philosophers of the New Testament and the Jewish members of the Sanhedrin were indeed very clever as they continued to build on this idol of a man as God, which is in Daniel 2:3, which is stated in Daniel, in the king's vision that each successive kingdom had continued to do. The New Testament was all part of the building of the idol. They did favor using text that was already readily available in the old scrolls and the Apocrypha, from what I'm understanding. And the New Testament was all part of it. They did favor using text that was already readily available in the old scrolls to build up this lie of the image of God as all male, while making women play the harlot at man's feet and law system. So that's true. From what I understand, by getting in different passages in the Old Testament, I realized they chose out little pieces here and there to compile the New Testament with, to give it the image of believability, though they changed all the she pronouns to he pronouns. And we also see them favoring other texts that were not considered canon. So I'll read the Apocrypha, I'll read the Book of Enoch, and I'll catch little phrases here and there that they actually used to compile into the Greek New Testament to try to validate it. And so that's my personal take on what I see the more I learn. We also know that under the law system, you know, a lot of the time under the teaching of men from the pulpit, when they say the he pronoun, they'll say, now women, that includes you. You're part of mankind. You're really a man. I've heard them actually call us that. But yet, they know we're not men. They know this. When it comes to the law, you're completely segregated away and told, well, no, you women don't have rights under the law because you're not men. So they clearly know that we are distinctly different when they choose not to allow us our equality that came directly from God. Woman is equal to the man. You see, we're not men, we're women. And their very law testifies to the fact that they know this. So, let me see here where I am. I should have actually enlarged my text. So, 1 Thessalonians is a good example of their own personal manipulation of the Old Testament text. The writers of the New, of course, claiming a fulfilling according to what they had prophesied it to be, but clearly has not. After a careful in-depth study of the Old Testament and who God was referring to as the Holy One, which we identified as the daughter of Israel, meaning the women and perhaps one particular daughter inside this once great nation, whom the first Adam rejected as a foundation stone, and then teach in the New Testament a male as God. Now, there's still more to read, but this brings me actually to the idea of the red heifer that they're preparing to sacrifice in Israel. Now, I've heard it claimed that the red heifer represents Jesus. Well, you do know a heifer is female, correct? Well, what most don't understand when you get understanding the Old Testament, and it took me a good 15 years to get a good handle on understanding that, and that is a mark of being chosen, that you will stick to God's truth and try very hard to work with wisdom, with reasoning out the truth, and not a man-made religious lie with your eyes closed and your ears plugged up and your neck hardened to that truth. What I realized in the Old Testament that the red heifer represented was actually the daughters inside the nation of Israel. So when they're looking at sacrificing these warlocks in Israel who thinks they ain't been caught by the true living God above through her holy ones teaching us the truth, what they really are up to is creating I just had it. What do they call it? It's a spell, creating an allegory in their spell that they're going to sacrifice the holy daughters yet again under their spells, under their crafting, under their rituals. That's the word I was looking for. God says your festivals didn't come from me. They came from yourself. Now we're going to take maybe a look at the festivals, like I said, tonight. If I can get in and do the video, which will be lengthy again. But they think by carrying out this ritual, because, you know, years ago when I was studying the red heifer, I could not hit any understanding on it whatsoever. And the only understanding that any of them gave was that that red heifer represented Jesus. Or Jesus represented the red heifer. Mind you, a man don't represent just a bull. He represents a red heifer. She don't even represent a heifer, mind you. It's amazing. You go in and you look at they'll call it a masculine noun. Yeah, and it's female. I mean, mind you, they just can't reason. But they think they're so clever because what they're really trying to do in this ritual is to ensure their own personal success of the sacrifice of the holy ones that are set apart by God to teach the truth of God. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say in my own personal ritual of words that comes from God, empowered by God, that if you wanted to say and have said for so long in so many different ways that that red heifer represents your idol of Jesus, then I think when you sacrifice that red heifer in Israel, that you're really going to sacrifice your own idol of Jesus this time. That came from you men that tries to distance yourself and say that you didn't build this idol up, when the Old Testament clearly tells us that that's exactly what you did. So, you want to sacrifice your red heifer? Just remember who you tell us it is. It's not the daughters of Israel. You tell us that that red heifer represents your God dying for you, which is male. So, when you sacrifice your red heifer, just remember you're sacrificing all males, or a male. Yeah, that's what you're doing. Perhaps you're sacrificing your own Antichrist this time. Yeah, let's put that spin on it. So 1 Thessalonians 5:3, when they say peace and security, then sudden destruction will come upon them like labor pains on a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. Who does it keep telling us will not escape? These men who built up the beast system and the harlots that bow at the feet of an idol, allowing him to build it up because it tickles his ears. It's like honey on his tongue, but it's really wormwood. It's a poisonous law system of beast, violent, that teaches women in submission at man's feet. That's what it is. So we saw the connection of the verse 1 Thessalonians 5:3 to the verse that we just read in Jeremiah. Why do we see every man standing around with his hands on his hips, trying to deliver children, saying he's the creator of all things, Father and Son made everything, when the tabernacle below, when we get studying, tells us that tabernacle is represented by a body, a human body, wherein this tabernacle we worship God. So when we go by that, the tabernacle below reflects the one above, is saying that there's actually two tabernacles below here and two above. That's right, with the female one being the creator of life. But that right over your head. That's why God says, wisdom God says, many are called, few are chosen out that'll actually listen and reason the truth out with any sense in reasoning, called wisdom. So wisdom asks, how long will you fools love your foolishness? A man, Father, did not give life to all things. If it's true, an XY couldn't give life to an XX. He simply don't possess the chromosomes, or whatever you want to call it, the genetic material to do so. He don't. She possesses a third more, and she also represents the Holy Spirit on earth, which he denied in covenant. It was indeed Mother, our mother. We reflect her tabernacle on earth that they tore down, known as the house in the forest of Lebanon, where the government of God, identified as a village of women in Psalm 68, actually met and then took the law out into the land. It was Mother's law. And it was a gentle law. That's right. It wasn't a violent law that came from Solomon building up the harlot system, which is what the world is founded upon. The Bible says so for any who can reason and study the Old Testament, as so few seem willing or able to do. Many are called, few are chosen. Are you chosen? Are you willing to actually search for this truth? Just wondering. If you are a mother, what would you feel like if the children never acknowledged your existence after you carried them for 9 months in your womb? That's right, you're the one that creates the clay in your womb, not Daddy with his hand. No, he couldn't. And travail to bring them forth. You're the one travailing. That's right, to bring forth life. And then Father stepped in and told them he did it all. Yeah, that's the world we're living in that has you bowing at an idol. And God says, if you've got a dream, fine, tell it. Anybody can have a dream. Anybody can make up a dream. Because all you're polluted with in your heart and in your spirit is a lie. To dream lies. But she says, if you've got my word of truth, I've led you to the truth, then she says, you make sure you speak my truth. For what is chaff? Your ridiculous dreams. Oh, you're so in love with a man idol and washing under it in his blood, in his beast system, and bowing his harlot. She says, what is your chaff to my wheat that literally gives life, my word? That's what she says. You can't be bothered to understand it, can you? No. But you can be bothered to keep building that idol up. And keep telling hubby, don't worry, God's a male, because that's how you want it. And it's those harlots building that lie up that is keeping you in death, not life. You just remember that, boys. You want a covenant with the harlot? That's what you're going to get. Death. So what kind of thinking are the women of this world doing? Well, none. You're not thinking. You have allowed him to do it for you. You're thinking. He's doing it for you. No wonder Mother is angry, but she said, you'll be no burden to me. You want your king to deliver you? And the word there for deliverance is birth. In most of the passages, you will not be delivered because you aren't no children of mine. You don't even know me. Call on your idols, like you've been doing. Eventually, you might realize it isn't listening. But they do say ignorance, another word for too stupid to reason, is bliss. And she does mock you. Wisdom does mock you because you are too stupid to listen and reason. You want nothing to do with her. And the way that I explained it, and now I'm going to go. This is much longer than I actually intended it to be. Sorry about that. But the way that I explain it, and oh, maybe I wasn't even in frame. I apologize for that. Was that she says in Isaiah 47, she says, no one sees me. I'm sorry. My tooth wasn't bothering me for a good long time, but now it started bothering me again with this cold. But she says, no one sees me. I will never be widowless. I will never be childless. I'm hid in his heart. That's what she means when she says no one sees me. So if she's hid in his heart, the harlot spirit Babylon there is called the queen of the kingdom. And she is the queen because she bows at that altar. She builds him up. Tells him, yeah, don't worry. Man's God. Male's God. Yet God says you are nothing more than a man. She says that in Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28 if you want to reason the simple truth out. So I got to go. But if he's your head, and they tell us he's our head, and he's got the harlot spirit hid in his heart, guess what that makes you? That makes you his harlot. You're playing his harlot, and you delight in it. And you think somehow that your ridiculous visions, because of the sin hid in your heart, and it is hid there from your own view, because you refuse to open your eyes. If that sin's hid in your heart of man as God, and you're willing to play the harlot, guess what you're going to dream? You're going to have sinful visions and dreams. That's what you're going to have. But her holy ones that she teaches her word to, she says, this is the wheat that'll feed and give life. And don't back down from teaching it. And I'm not. So I got to go. Sorry about the picture. I was probably out of frame most of the time. Sorry for the stumbling of words. I'm stumbling because of this stupid tooth. Anyway, thank you for watching. Pray the Lord blesses you with an abundance of her waters. Flows from her, not from him. Never did. At least not this Adam. So, I thank you for watching, and I hope y'all have a really nice day.